The following is a WVVA Sports Special.
The sun sets over southern West Virginia and southwest Virginia. Summertime begins to wind down. Fall is just around the corner. You can smell it in the air. It's here again. High school football, 1988.
From Mitchell Stadium in Bluefield, West Virginia, this is the High School Football Game of the Week 1988 season opener. Today, the Bluefield Beavers take on the Graham G-Men. Today's game is brought to you in part by Ramey Chevrolet, steering you straight. By Hardee's Restaurant, where we're out to win you over. And by Mullins Ford, your four-wheel drive headquarters in Richlands, Virginia.
High school football 1988 here on WVVA TV. Tonight from Mitchell Stadium in Bluefield, it's the heated rivalry as the Graham G-Men meet the Bluefield Beavers. Hello, everybody. I'm Pat Frizzell alongside with my color commentator tonight, Mitchell Estep, no stranger to the area, a former player with the Bluefield State Big Blues. You've played on the field before, and now a head coach with the Jaeger Cubs. Certainly welcome to the high school game of the week, Coach.
Well, sure. Thank you, Pat. I'm glad to be here with WVVA. It seems like it's going to be very exciting. I can hear the bands playing, everybody excited in the stands. We couldn't think of anywhere else I'd rather be tonight other than Jaeger, but since we're open, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to come.
And tonight, as we mentioned, it's the Bluefield Beavers and the Graham G-Men. And when you mention Graham and Bluefield, you're talking Princeton Bluefield, you're talking Jaeger Big Creek. It's one of the biggest heated rivalries around the two Virginias. And Coach, again, back to the rivalry. This game right off the top is vitally important for both teams.
Yes, sir. I noticed Coach Clark speaking to him earlier that this has been going on as far back as he can remember. It was 1953. Simons played for Clark when this rivalry was going, and I'm sure they're excited, and it's so important to both teams to get off to a good start, and I'm sure they're both looking to be 1-0 tonight. So we're expecting an exciting and a great game tonight.
How about the atmosphere, Coach? You can almost smell it in the air. It's high school football season once again.
No doubt about it. Not only smell it, I believe you can slice it. It's so the hair just stands up on your arms, the chills of it. And I tell you, it's so exciting. I think it's just so high school sports, and especially football, is just great. And I think it brings the whole community together. And I tell you, it's going to be just one heck of a football game.
As far as tonight is concerned, S squared, speed versus size. The quicker Graham G-Men. But when you talk about Bluefield, you're talking some big feet.
Very huge. They average almost 223 across the line, about 6 foot, and they're dominated with also good speed in the backfield. But like you said, the speed, it's on the Graham side, and they say they got 2 quarterbacks, don't even know which one they're going to go with. So that's exciting to find out who's even going to start the game. So I look forward to it.
Interesting enough, once again, it's game one. It's high school football, the fever. As the coach mentioned, you can slice it. You can smell it in the air. And the opening game, you've been there before, Coach. You're a current coach now with the Jaeger Cubs. What is it like in game one? The atmosphere, the jitters?
Well, especially in West Virginia, the school hasn't even started, so it brings everybody back into school. With Virginia, they have just got started, so I know they're excited about it. So it's just something that you really can't put a finger on. You just got to be here to enjoy it, and I hope we can bring some of that excitement to the viewers today.
High school football 1988 here on WVVA TV. Pat Frizzell along with Mitchell Estep. When we come back, we'll go right to that opening kickoff as the Graham G-Men meet the Bluefield Beavers. Hey, high school football 1988. The ball to be fielded there at the 14-yard line by John Grubb, and he's across the 30, still going, and he's brought down at the 33-yard line, where that will bring up a 1st and 10 for the Graham G-Men. And the G-Men have it 1st and 10. The first play of the ball game, the fumble there that time by Mike Arthur as he backs away. And again up the middle, the ball is fumbled, and the Beavers have apparently recovered. And it looks like Jerome Carter has got it, and he does. And just like that, the Bluefield Beavers have the ball 1st and 10 on the Graham 25-yard line, and that's something in a game like this, Mitchell. Turnovers can cost you early.
I'm sure Coach Clark didn't want that to happen, and I'm sure that was a concern of him with going 2 quarterbacks and not having that decision made early enough in the season to have that occur. So I guess that's sure been a problem for him. So I guess that's why we have 2 split quarterbacks at this time.
Stacy Carter, the signal caller for the Bluefield Beavers. Bluefield comes out of the slot eye offense. The ball is handed off that time to Ronnie Scott. He's all the way inside the 15, brought down at the 14-yard line. A pickup of nearly 11 yards on the play, and Bluefield, something they did last year, they won the ball game 34-0, their ability to take over early.
I think so. An excellent block by number 12 was the slot back. He got hooked in, and they got outside of him, and I think he just kind of went down the sideline using his speed.
So a 1st and 10 for the Bluefield Beavers on the Graham 14-yard line. They give that time again to Scott, and he's going to be brought down, a pickup of a couple yards on the play as the G-men are there to make the hit. 2nd down and 8 now for Bluefield, again out of the slot eye offense. Graham out of the split 6D. Again the pitch, that time to Ronnie Scott, and he won't get anything as the G-men toughen up inside the 15-yard line.
Looked like number 75, Tony Young, made the initial hit, but the host of G-men there, they tried to run the same play that they ran at the beginning of the ball game and didn't quite get the lane or the gray area they wanted to, and they got stopped inside the 20. This is where the yard's hard to get down here.
One thing I know the coaches talked about, Coach Carlock before the game mentioned the fact that he can't really key on either Stacy Carter or Ronnie Scott because they're both so talented out of the Bluefield backfield.
And that massive line doesn't help the situation a whole lot.
Carter, deep drop, he's going to try to scramble out of it, and the G-men will bring him down. No gain on the play, and that will bring up a 4th down for Bluefield. It's decision time for Fred Simon. Coach, what do you do?
Well, I think for this point in time with 3 plays, I think if you got the field goal kick, which I seen during the pregame where he kicked it and went over, I think I'd go with the field goal at this point, and I'm sure Coach Carlock will be glad to get out of here just behind 3-0 if the field goal is successful.
And if Graham can hold them here, certainly some momentum on defense, where something that's crucial is building confidence. Anytime you're involved in a heated rivalry, you've got 2 area teams that are battling out year after year, and certainly momentum is a key factor. That's Scott. He's across the 10, inside the 5. Touchdown, Bluefield. Mike Shota on to attempt the extra point for Bluefield. The kick is up, and it is no good. And Coach Estep, let's go ahead and take a look at that on instant replay as Ronnie Scott, one of the most talented backs in the southern West Virginia, goes around the right side for 6.
Well, I think they overloaded one side with 3 receivers, and I think Graham thought they was going to try to pass the ball in his own, being 4th and 9, which is a good assumption. And they ran a little sprint draw delay there, and he went right in, and I guess that shows you that's why you get paid for doing what you're doing. Personally, I said, well, let's go field goal, and maybe he didn't have the field goal kick he thought he did, and they went for the 6, and they got him, and missed the extra point, so maybe that's why they didn't go for the field goal. So that's why you got to know your team.
And Mike Shota is set to kick off now for the Bluefield Beavers as they strike early on a turnover by Graham. They capitalize, and the kick is away. Will be fielded at the 7-yard line by Tony Palmer, and he's across the 25. He's got some room. He's brought down at the 30-yard line. And now, Coach, it's time for the G-men to do something here, and as we saw in the first drive, turnover, something Bluefield was able to capitalize on, and as far as Graham is concerned, they can't afford to turn the ball over again, or they'll really be in deep trouble.
Yeah, I think probably at this point you'll see Coach Carlock just kind of ground it out and get some kind of field position before he tries anything to avoid any other turnovers at this point. And I see he's still leaving his quarterback in there, which is a good move to leave a little confidence in him and let him get his confidence back. So here's in the wishbone formation. It looks like that's what he's going to do.
And again, there's a mix-up in the backfield. This time it's Mike Patton calling signals. Coach Carlock said before the game that he would not make a decision on who would start. He would decide on the warm-ups. He went with Mike Arthur, and he basically based that decision on how they carried themselves in the pregame warm-ups, their handoffs, whether or not they were looking the ball in.
I think at that time the guard had run into him on a trap play, and they ran into each other just this last play. And that may have been the same problem on the first fumble.
And they're out of the wishbone, and that time Patton is brought down immediately by Bluefield. And again, Coach, we're seeing that size so evident right off the bat as Graham is unable to break through the front line of Bluefield.
No question. He's in that 5-2 defense, and they're just so massive up there. And I see Graham trying to pull and trap on him, but they just can't seem to move him at this point in time. But, you know, I think they'll regroup and just pair it out a bit, and I think we're still in for an exciting and great game.
Well, Graham, again, they come out of the multiple set offense. The reason they feel it's most attractive is good for misdirection plays. Again, the G-man out of the wishbone. Handoff inside that time to the fullback, Keith Woody. And following the punt, the Bluefield Beavers have the ball on their own 27-yard line. 5-man defensive front now for Graham. The ball goes straight up the middle that time to the fullback. 2nd down and 7 now for Bluefield following the Graham punt. Carter drops back, throws the football. It's nearly intercepted that time, as John Grubb had the ball hit him right in the pads. And Mitchell, that's something Graham, it looks to me, if he would have made the interception, they would have had the ball certainly in good field position.
That's exactly what they need at this point. Looks like to me that Coach Clark must have definitely found some tendency, because I noticed on his first defensive series, he went to the 50, which he normally plays a split 6, which he was in at that point. So I guess he's trying to figure out exactly what he's doing. So I noticed he's going back to the 50, so he must assume this is going to be a run.
Again, Pat Frizzell along with Mitchell Estep, the head coach of the Jaeger Cubs, just down Route 52. Carter, the draw play, goes that time to Ronnie Scott, and he is wrapped up and brought down. He'd be lucky to get back to the line of scrimmage as Tim Hall came storming in that time. To talk about some confidence, Graham really shut them down on that drive.
Excellent. They needed that at that point, and it looks like they're going to get, if they field the ball and get any type of return at all, they're going to get excellent field position. So I tell you what, you better hold on your seats. It's going to be an exciting one.
And again, back to get the punt off now for the Bluefield Beavers is Mike Shota, standing back at his 14-yard line. Kick is away, a low end-over-end kick. The ball will be fielded by Tony Palmer, and he's out across the 50-yard line. He's brought down at the 49, so Graham with excellent field position. The ball resting at the midfield stripe. And that'll bring up a 2nd down and 2 now for the Graham G-men. They trail in this ball game 6-0 as Bluefield capitalized on a Graham turnover and put it into the end zone on their first drive. And that time, Keith Woody will go nowhere. In fact, he may have lost a yard, and the Graham sidelines, as you can see, they're storming, saying there should have been a penalty for a late hit.
Yes, they definitely wanted that late call. Is what they need. At this point in time, it looks like, you know, at the beginning of the game, Bluefield had the momentum, but, you know, looking at the sidelines, look at the defense, they're going to have to get jacked up a little bit, that they're going to lose that at this point.
And that'll bring up a 3rd down and 1 yard now for Graham. And again, the back and forth as Mike Patton, now the signal caller. And after the penalty, that'll now make it 3rd down and 6 for the G-men. The ball on the Graham, on their Bluefield's 45, and that time, Palmer goes storming over the left side. He's all the way inside the 32-yard line. And the ball will be resting at the 32, and that should be good enough for a 1st down. That time, Brock Steckline made the play for Bluefield. If it wasn't for Steckline, it could have been 6.
Yeah, it looked like a 2nd-man through play on a wishbone, and I think Bluefield set up for a blitz, thinking sure they was going to run a short yardage play. It looked like they was in a 5-3 blitz, and they sent them on. When they do that, if you find the right hole they're not coming from, it's gone, and that's exactly what happened. So, you know, you take chances as coaches, and you win some, you lose some. So that's the way it goes. That's part of the ball game.
1st and 10 now for the Graham G-men as they started this drive on the 50, now on the Bluefield 32. And again, there's Palmer, and he's all the way inside the 30 to the 26-yard line. G-men out of the wishbone. There's Palmer again, and he's brought down at the 22. That'll be very close to a G-men 1st down. And again, the confidence factor, a game like this, as Bluefield pretty much let the air out of the G-men's balloon on that last touchdown, but Graham comes right back.
Comes right back. That shows, you know, the character of the football team, and this shows test Bluefield's character at this point. And like I said, once again, you notice they come off that left side again of their offense.
3rd down and about a half a yard for the G-men out of the wishbone. There's the pitch to the right side that time
to Ronell Mason, and he's inside the 15 to the 14-yard line, and that will be good enough for a G-man first down.
I think that's the first we've seen of that night. That shows a lot of confidence that Coach Lawler has in that quarterback. Come right back and run that option play, which is a difficult play to run, especially against the 50 when people's playing man-to-man on you.
And again, as Coach Carlock said before the game, he feels the multiple set offense is attractive for the misdirection plays, and he certainly is doing a good job of mixing things up here in the first quarter. Again, Bluefield leads it 6-0 out of the wishbone. And that time, handoff goes to Keith Woody, and he will be wrapped up at the 14-yard line. He'll be lucky to get back to the line of scrimmage. May have picked up a half a yard on the play. And that will end the first quarter here from Mitchell Stadium in Bluefield, as the Bluefield Beavers lead the Graham G-Men on the high school game of the week here on WVVA 6-0. Back after this timeout. Quarter, as that time a toss goes to Tony Palmer, and he's going to be brought down. He's going to lose about 2 yards. So the G-Men, an obvious passing situation here. Quarterback Mike Patton, they send a man in motion. Patton with a straight drop, throws the ball in over the middle, and it will be intercepted. As Mike Mustard picks it off, he's across the 30, still going, and will be brought down at the 41-yard line. As Chris Patton, good heads-up play as far as the offense being able to get back and make that play, but a good return that time.
Yeah, yes, of course, Mustard, I understand, was the 9th grade player last year that averaged over 100 games, so he knows what to do with the ball when he gets a hold of it. Just seemed like it was one of those plays where it reflected off of one of the other defenders. A good tip play, good heads-up play by the Bluefield defense. And, you know, in order to stop that momentum, that's what you needed.
And this time, the Bluefield Beavers take over out of the shotgun. Carter, and the handoff that time to Ronnie Scott. He's across the 45, still going. He's inside G-men territory at the 47-yard line. Well, I'll tell you that Ronnie Scott showing some impressive speed out there early.
Great, yeah, just a little hand sweep to play to him. And so once again, we've got excellent blocking on the corner out here. And then just, you know, with that kind of speed, you get that kind of blocking, you're asking for trouble. So, you know, Graham's definitely going to have to toughen up the corners a little bit. And I noticed that's why Coach Carlock said he liked to play that split six. So maybe you have to show it a little more. Try to cut those corners off.
Well, the Beavers lead this one 6-0 in case you're just joining us on a quick touchdown. They capitalized on a G-men mistake. There's the option play to Scott across the 50, and he'll be brought down at the 46, maybe picked up a yard, and that's about it. Well, some interesting notes about the Bluefield Beavers. Head coach Fred Simon, a Beaver himself. He played there. He graduated in 1974, and he's no stranger to Mitchell Stadium. In fact, he calls it the nicest stadium in the state of West Virginia. And a 2nd down and 9 now for Bluefield. Carter, just a little screen pass that time. The pass intended for Charlie Thompson. 3rd down and 9 now for Bluefield. Again, the clock not working this evening. Carter, a little draw play that time to Ronnie Scott. And he'll pick up a yard on the play. That's it. And that'll bring on a 4th down. And here comes the Bluefield punting unit.
Yeah, we've seen that play before. That's his play. I believe that's his bread and butter. That's the play that they scored on earlier. Tried it again once again in a situation where they needed the 1st down. Wasn't successful this time around.
And Mike Shota on to get the kick away now for Bluefield. Back deep, Tony Palmer, and he will be the deep man throughout the night for the Graham G-men. Standing back at his 14-yard line. And Shota's kick is away. It's a low kick, and that will not be fielded as the ball goes out of bounds at the 16-yard line. That's where the official's going to mark it. And coming up at halftime, tribute to one of the former Bluefield Beavers, Jay Sims. Number 17 will be retired. He was a former player here at Bluefield High School. I'm sure many remember. Quarterback for the Beavers between 1981 and 83. According to Coach Simon, he's never seen a finer football player come through Bluefield. And to give up the middle that time to the fullback, that's Keith Woody. And he's all the way out to the 30, and that will be good enough for a 1st down. And once again, there you have Dr. Daniel Noble of Bluefield. Had a chance to climb Mount Everest. Only 35,000 feet to the top. Nothing to it, huh, Coach?
Yes, sir. I got to talk to him early, and he said he may even try that again. Said he really enjoyed it. So, you know, it's what he told me. He's real excited.
And there's Patton. He scrambles out of it. Good scrambling that time by the G-Men Jr. And he's all the way to the 43-yard line of Bluefield. And certainly welcome to the High School Game of the Week Kickoff Classic here on WVVA TV. Pat Frizzell along with beside me tonight, Mitchell Eastep, the head coach of the Jaeger Cubs, just down Route 52. Coach, I guess you get after it next week, huh?
Yes, sir. We'll have next week, September 2nd, Hurley, Virginia. And I tell you what, I hope we have as great game as this has turned out to be here. It's been very exciting. The fans seem to be in it. Everybody's having a good time. A great night for football.
3rd down and 8 now for the G-Men. And Patton will throw the ball. He goes deep over the middle, and that ball is nearly intercepted. Intended that time for Brian Hoops, and Coach, close to interference, but no flag.
Yes, sir. That seemed like a great play by, you know, 2 defensive backs there, and the receiver went up well for the ball. It's just a great play by both teams. I tell you what, it's dead even right now. Other than that first turnover, I tell you, this has been a dead even ball, and it's great. A defensive battle.
As far as Bluefield is concerned now, they come out of that slot eye offense, and the reason they use it is because head coach Fred Simon says it best utilizes their speed and their talent. Carter, that time it goes to Scott, and he's across the 25 out to the 27-yard line. Carter will roll to his left, throws the football deep, got a man wide open that time. It's Floyd Ray, and he may go 20, 10, touchdown Bluefield. And that play covered some 65 yards.
Yeah, and he's definitely what I heard, all I heard about him. He's a returning player, and you notice, Pat, on that this year West Virginia has changed the rule blocking that the lineman can use the hands on offense, and I think that gave him that little extra time to get that number 12 down the sideline, Floyd Ray. So I think that really helped him get him open.
Coach, if we could, while we've got a moment, go ahead and take a look at that on instant replay, and it looked to me like Stacy Carter had Floyd Ray wide open, and he just outran the secondary.
Yeah, it looked like a little play action in the back, that little isolation, that sprint draw they run, and then, like I said, once again, I noticed particularly our offensive lineman, being an offensive line coach, that the offense gave him great protection because of the new ruling was using their hands, and he just caught the ball, and I tell you, there was no catching him. He just turned on the second speed, and he was in the end zone.
And that will make it 12-0 now, Bluefield. And the Beavers will go for 2 on this play. Carter, the option to Ronnie Scott, and he's going to be swarmed under, but he breaks out of it. Scott gets to the outside, and he's in for the 2-point conversion. And that time, Ronnie Scott, he went right. They grabbed him by the neck. They did all they could to bring him down, and all of a sudden, there goes the Jackrabbit around the left side. Back deep for the G-men, John Grubb and Tony Palmer. And that time it will be John Grubb taking the ball at the 20-yard line. And he's still going. He had a good return that time of some 15 yards, brought down at the 36-yard line. And I understand, Coach, just over 3 minutes to play here in the first half. The G-men certainly trailing 14-0. They need to get something on the scoreboard, pick up a little confidence going into the locker room.
Yeah, especially when you get those big plays like that. You know, you got the big pass or on the touchdown, and then the play like that where you had him in, then he gets off. You know, that's real frustrating for the defense, and I'm sure for the coaching staff. And but I tell you what, you can still hear the pads popping. Neither team gave up yet. They're still knocking heads down there.
Well, about 8,000 people on hand tonight here at Mitchell Stadium. That's certainly no surprise, as that time Mike Patton will be wrapped up. Good heads-up play by Jerome Carter, the defensive end, just a junior.
Great tackle, great tackle. Try to run an option play there and pitch it back. Quarterback had no choice but eat at that time. I tell you, that's what happens. You know, get that big momentum on your side. Big Mo, we call him, and that's what jacks you up, and everybody starts playing a little better, a little higher level.
Out of the wishbone, they keep it straight ahead that time. It goes to Chad Surface, and he'll get about a yard on the play, if that. 3rd down and 11 now for Graham. And they decide to keep it simple. The handoff goes to Palmer, and he'll pick up about 6, maybe 7 yards on the play out to the 42-yard line, and we should see the Graham punting unit once again.
Yeah, a little scissors trap play there. Take both backs one way, come back with the third back, trying to get a quick opening, and it was good for 6 or 7 yards, but not enough for the first down.
Well, Coach, the G-men will continue to hold on to the football here following the personal foul. We'll get back to that in just a moment.
First down and 10 for the G-men in the closing moments of the first half, and the ball will be batted down that time. And Jerome Carter is there. Second down and 10 now for the G-men out of the wishbone. And they'll run the option to the left side. There's Palmer, and he'll be brought down by that quick Bluefield defense. And there's Floyd Ray, who of course went in for that big touchdown just moments ago. A third down and 10 now for the G-men following the timeout. Patton will throw the football, and that time nearly intercepted by Mike Mustard. Mustard seems to me if he would have turned around a split second earlier, then he would have been there for the interception.
Yeah, it looked like he had him man-to-man and actually seen the ball. I tell you, Graham's offense, you get in a situation where it's 3rd and 9 and you run that wishbone, it's really difficult to pass out of there, especially when they know you're going to throw out there.
Just under a minute to play again coming up at halftime. We will certainly have a special treat for everyone as Jay Sims, number 17, who played here with the Bluefield Beavers as a quarterback between 1981 and 83. We will have the retirement of his jersey. And the kick is away. And a fair catch is called for by Charlie Thompson back at the 24-yard line. Just 35 seconds to play in the first half. Bluefield leading at 14-0. Carter with a deep drop will throw the football, intended that time for the center.
Yes, a great unusual call. I tell you what, I'm not going to make another prediction with Coach Simons. I tell you what, he's letting it all loose tonight. I thought he'd be content with going into halftime, but I'm not going to make any more predictions at all.
Again, stay with us at halftime. A special treat as we will have the retiring of Jay Sims, number 17 jersey, joining a couple other Bluefield players. Howie Littman, whose number was retired back in the 70s. And Carter goes over the middle. The pass is caught that time by Floyd Ray inside the Graham 30-yard line. And a good pickup on the play. Good for some 32 yards, Coach.
Yes, sir. This is exciting football, isn't it? I tell you what, they turn it loose in Bluefield Beavers. The Grahams in that prevent defense had pretty good coverage, but I tell you what, he let it go, and I tell you, almost got another. So they're sure there's going to be a lot of excitement in the second half.
And that will end our first half of play on our high school game of the week, the season opener tonight, as the Bluefield Beavers lead the Graham G-men at the half, 14-0. Back after this timeout.
We'll be right back after this short timeout.
Here at Mitchell Stadium in Bluefield, where the Bluefield Beavers are leading the Graham G-men 14-0. And Coach, a summary of the first half and basically Bluefield's ability with their size to move Graham out.
Yes, and I've been a little bit impressed with the speed Bluefield has, and I think the big part of the early game was the turnovers by Graham. They got down early, and then the big plays with the big long pass to Floyd Ray, and I think that really got them down. And the wide open game they're playing. So I'm sure, Coach Carlock's warned them against that. If those 2 plays, we'd still be in the ball game. So by no means will they give up, and I'm sure Bluefield knows that there's no way they can sit on this 14-0 lead.
That's something, again, the confidence factor, Coach. That's one thing that Bluefield will have to do is not get overconfident. We occasionally see that in the world of sports where a team will build up a 14-point lead, and all of a sudden they come out flat in the second half. They make a mistake or two, and just like that, it's tied.
Yes, sir, especially with high school athletes. You got to remember, these are young men, young children, 16, 17, 18 years old. And that's what happens, They tend to think sometimes the game's over and you still got a whole half to play. So I'm sure right now is where the coaches really need to do a sight job on the players.
And just moments ago, that moment we promised you, the retiring of Jay Sims, a former quarterback's jersey here at Bluefield, number 17. Coach, one of the greatest players ever to come through the program, and as Coach Simon described him, basically a player who did anything you wanted.
Yes, sir, and I thought the halftime was great. It was excellent, very emotional. I'm sure Jay's family appreciated it, all the fans, everyone standing ovation. Just a tremendous, great honor for a young man that deserves it all.
And let's go back to that moment as Jay Sims, number 17's jersey, retired here tonight.
Former Beaver quarterback Jay Sims dazzled the high school football world in southern West Virginia as a quarterback while at Bluefield between 1981 and 83. Sims was bound for Ohio University on a full football scholarship. when in the summer of '84 at the Bluefield City Park, the former Beaver standout was paralyzed from the neck down following a tragic shooting accident. According to head coach Fred Simon, Jay Sims is the ideal candidate to have his number 17 jersey retired.
And I'm going to tell you something about Jay Sims. Probably, I don't know if there'll ever be a nicer and any better football player ever play up here than him. He dedicated his life up here to this program. He worked very hard, was just a tremendous quarterback and defensive man for us. Had a scholarship to Ohio University, and we expected big things out of him, and just didn't get the break. He just had some bad luck there, and been awful strong, Pat, to have survived what he did and just go on and really go on with life the way he's done. He's really just a great individual, and we really are proud to retire his number tonight because he's as strong as any individual that's ever played up here. I think you look at a kid that's really dedicated his life up here, and something that's really tragically happened to him, that you really just think that maybe a kid deserves something like this, and I definitely think that Jay deserves this, and I'm sure that his ex-head football coach, John Shamar, feels the same way.
And at halftime, the number 17 was worn for the last time by Jay Sims.
Honored this way is kind of hard for me. I always expect to see 17 out there, hopefully pattern itself maybe somehow the way I would play, just going out there and leading by example, not by word. I'm going to miss seeing the number out there, but I'm grateful to all the fans, my family, and Bluefield High School, and the coaches and team for the honor they give me. And I thank all of them from the bottom of my heart. You know, God bless everybody. Thank you. I always wanted to do my best and just every play just give all that I can give and hopefully come out with a win.
Great memories of Jay Sims as a quarterback at Bluefield will never be forgotten, especially with Jay's mother, Elsie Sims.
It's happy and it's sad because Jay loved to play football more than anything in the world. He missed a trip to California when he was in the 9th grade so that he could play football. And this is all he ever wanted to do was play football. And even though this has happened to Jay, I think that it's a lot of good that has come out of it. A lot of good.
The most memorable moment
Was in Pulaski County when we were down 21-6 in the 4th quarter, and we come back and beat them 22-0. I mean 22-21. That was the most exciting game I think I'd ever seen him play.
We have a very close family, and we always have been there for one another, and try to just take when somebody's feeling low, just find a way to pick each other up. We survive that way, and through the grace of God, we'll continue to be strong and do well.
Jay Sims joins other Beaver numbers to be retired, number 55, Howie Littman, and number 77, Stanley Neal. August 26, 1988, the number 17, worn by Jay Sims, will never be worn by a Beaver again.
Well, they got the saying, Beaver born and Beaver bred. I'll be a Beaver till I'm dead.
And again, Jay Sims, who was first tragically shot back in the summer of 1984, Coach, and right over here at Bluefield City Park, as a matter of fact. What a courageous individual, as we just heard.
Yes, sir, it sure is. And I tell you, it's a great honor received tonight, and well-deserved. And I tell you, I'm sure everyone in here and all of us, our prayers are with his family, and we wish the best for today.
And once again, we're at halftime with the Bluefield Beavers lead the Graham team and 14-0. Back with the 3rd quarter after this timeout. Well, now 3rd down and 4 for Bluefield as they lead in this one 14-0. The 3rd quarter just underway. Carter throws the football. Charlie Thompson there to make the reception, and that will be good enough for down all the way out to the 37-yard line.
Now, it looks like I noticed a decent defensive change for Graham. I think they're kind of spreading it out a little bit, trying to contain the ends a little more and trying to maybe just be satisfied to give them up the middle and make them earn it rather than let them turn the corner on them.
Coach, one interesting note off of Graham here. Number 75 right there on the defensive line, Tony Young.
He's definitely a great note here. He's been on a great conditioning program. He's lost 65 pounds from last year, from 280 now, down to about 220, 215. And I tell you, he done it all through dieting, off conditioning, and Coach Carlock says it's helped him great as a defensive lineman.
And of course, Coach Carlock, a graduate of Concord College, as well as the head man at Bluefield, Fred Simon. And there's Ronnie Scott on the carry, and he's out to the 39-yard line, a pickup of 3 yards on the play. And Coach, interesting enough, Fred Simon used to play for Coach Glenn Carlock when Carlock was an assistant coach at Bluefield.
Sure did, under Shamar and Carlock. They was both at Bluefield, and Simon's played under them. And I guess this is an interesting contrast between the two. And I also like to throw a little note in for McDowell County. Coach Carlock is a graduate from Big Creek High School.
And, of course, Coach Mitchell Eastep now, the head coach of the Jaeger Cubs, our color commentator tonight. And there's Charlie Thompson again. And the ball's fumbled. And I think Graham may have the football. They've ruled it a reception. Let's see what the official says. Graham football as they take over on the Bluefield 48-yard line. Coach, that's exactly the break they needed here to start the third quarter.
No question. The fans knew it right away. You could hear the roar from the other side, so they definitely wanted that, and they needed it, and they're excited now. So you better buckle up because we're ready for a second-half kickoff classic.
Marcus Latimer came up with that football, number 31, the sophomore for the G-Men. And to start the second half, it will be the starting quarterback for Graham tonight, Mike Arthur, who had problems holding on to the football early. Tony Palmer that time on the carry. Coach, maybe the philosophy as far as a quarterback is concerned, and Glenn Carlock, he started Mike Arthur, but of course Arthur fumbled. I guess it was the first or second snap.
Sure was.
Back to Patton, and now he's back to Arthur. Maybe you can explain that.
Well, I think what he's trying to do is get a little momentum on his offense. And earlier when he changed around, and now he's come back to Patton, he feels maybe a little stability. Really, the offense wasn't hurt much early in the game, except they never had any field position other than that one turnover.
And there's Tony Palmer across the 45 down to the 41-yard line, where that's going to bring up a 3rd down and 4.
I noticed also, Pat, he's exchanging each other play. He's using both one play and one another, so maybe he's trying to get some consistency or some type of excitement among the players. They feel, let's go, let's get it down the field.
Now, Bluefield last season, Coach, they finished 7-3 on the year. They lost to East Bank on basically, I guess it was the last game of the season. We'll have more on that in a moment. A ball is fumbled. And it looks like the G-men have gotten on it, but no, the official says Bluefield recovers. And that time it's Mike Mustard coming up with a recovery. So that's something that Glenn Carlock's Graham G-men give it right back to him.
Well, you know, that's real complicated running those two quarterback systems. It's really tough on the kids. The cadence is different, the handoff's different, you know, and it takes a little time. And so I'm sure, you know, there's a little confusion, not to defend them by any means, but I'm sure Coach Carlock understands that can happen when you're using two types of quarterbacks at different times.
And in case you're just joining us, the Bluefield Beavers lead the Graham G-men 14-0 with the third quarter just underway. Carter, a little pass, screen pass over the middle that time to Ronnie Scott, the tailback. And he's close to the midfield strike as Lance Barber is there for the G-men to make the play. And that will bring up a 2nd down and 7 now for Bluefield.
Getting back to earlier, you talked about the loss to East Bank at the last game of the season. I think also that may have hurt them from entering the playoffs at that time. I think they would have finished in the top 8. So I'm sure that's still on their minds, and they want to kind of get back and swing that and maybe get to the playoffs this year.
Well, we've got a down man, Chris Mead, number 52 for Bluefield, the starting center, just a junior. And as far as Graham is concerned, Coach, they fell to Radford last year in the first round of the Virginia State playoffs. In fact, there was no one from Southern West Virginia and Southwest Virginia who survived the first round. Every team went down. And Johnny Grant now in the game for Bluefield High School, taking over for Stacy Carter. And there's a handoff inside to Mike Kelly, and he gets inside the 50 down to the 47-yard line of Graham. Now, Coach, I guess more than something we could see right now for Graham is perhaps a change of their offensive approach. They trail 14-0. They seem to have been keeping the ball on the ground. They may have to start putting the ball up in the air and do it pretty quick.
Well, yeah, it's still early yet, but I'm sure Coach Carlock, that's in the back of his mind. If he don't get some consistency and try to keep his turnovers from happening, he's going to definitely have to do that.
Fullback up the middle that time. Again, it's Mike Kelly. And he will have the first down for Bluefield as the ball's resting on the 44-yard line of the G-men. We have no clock tonight. The official down on the field has been running a stopwatch throughout. And that's really the only way that we have had to find out exactly how much time. The clock does read 0-0-0. And, of course, Bluefield leading this ball game 14-0.
But I'll tell you right now, I'd say that most thing on Coach Carlock's mind is try to stop this momentum from their offense. They got another first down, and they're working towards another one.
Carter will be hit immediately at the line of scrimmage, but he scrambles out of it. And it looks like they may call him in the grass back at the 42-yard line as Tim Hall came storming in. Coach, what do we have there?
Well, I think what it was, his forward progress had stopped, and he hadn't gone down, but he hadn't been moving, so I think they called the ball dead at that point, which I believe was a good call at that point.
And again, Johnny Grant in for Stacy Carter, and Stacy Carter, he goes both ways, Coach, and that can be mighty grueling and tiresome, I can imagine, for a quarterback, and obviously he's also a defensive back, a safety for the Bluefield Beavers.
And I guess also this is a great opportunity, you know, at this point to give the second backup quarterback a chance to play, because you never know when you need it, and he needs that live action play. So, you know, at this point he must have a lot of confidence in, Coach Simons does, in his second backup quarterback, Johnny Grant.
Stacy Carter suffering from cramping, we understand, and I'm sure he'll be back in the ball game.
Well, that's expected this time of year, early in the season. It's a great, beautiful night, but, you know, you're going both ways, like you said, lose some sweat and lose a little bit of acid, and then that could happen.
Out of the I formation this time, and Grant, not near the speed, will be dropped back at the 37-yard line. That time by Chris Patton as he came storming in, the inside linebacker, and right on top of the play.
I think Coach Garlock's gambling a little bit on defense, as you said he might have to do on offense as far as holding the ball. He's taking some risk. He's blitzing those linebackers, trying to put a little pressure on that new quarterback that just came in the ball game. And it's a great, great call by the coaching staff over there.
Well, this game certainly does go back quite a few years. And as far as Coach Carlock is concerned, he says his most memorable Bluefield-Graham game came back in 1978. When on the third play of the game, the G-men scored on a sweep. He didn't seem to think that year the G-men were that quick, that good. That's his most memorable moment. And Ronnie Scott gets outside. He's across the 50. He's got that outside speed. He'll be brought down inside the 30-yard line of Graham. The official will mark it at the 29-yard line. And Coach, as we see time and time again, you let Ronnie Scott get outside, he may be as good as gone. You don't track him down.
Well, I think so, and they seem once again, they seem to have it hemmed in. That's just great athletic ability by Ronnie Scott. They had him hemmed in. He turned it corner to corner and went upfield. Once again, a great tackle. Looked like he might have got a little bit winded on that play. Seems like he's limping a little bit back to the end zone, but I'm sure he'll be okay when he gets ready to go.
Still in the third quarter, Bluefield leading at 14-0. And that's Johnny Grant in at quarterback. And that time it's Mike Kelly as he gets about 7 yards on the carry, and Kelly did not want to go down, Coach.
No, that's great running, but by Kelly, I swear, great running. But I tell you what, I'm sure Carlock's and the coaching staff of Graham's not pleased with that arm tackling they're doing right now. No wrapping up and putting the guys on the ground. Maybe that big Mo's changed again back to Bluefield side again after those two great defensive plays by Graham.
Well, Stacy Carter didn't take long, only about 5 minutes. He's back in the ball game now, the speedster. A senior, of course, a starting quarterback last year for the Bluefield Beavers. That certainly has to help a squad, having that senior leadership out there, someone who's been in this kind of situation before. Carter, there's the pitch to the left side, that time to Mike Mustard, and he'll be brought down for a loss back at the 30-yard line.
Yeah, after one, you see one bad play by the defense and a great play by the offense, it turns right around. I tell you, these teams are surely going after it. They don't, neither one want to let up.
Pat Frizzell with Mitchell Estep, the head coach of the Jaeger Cubs, the Kickoff Classic here on WVVA TV Channel 6, the high school game of the week. And next week, we're not going to want to miss this one, Coach. They've been talking about the Greenbrier East Spartans as being the team to beat. Next week, they make a trip to Princeton.
Yeah, I'm sure Coach Criddles will be excited to come to that new stadium. I'm sure Princeton's will be excited to open. Coach Trabucas will have his team ready to go.
Carter, deep drop. He'll be brought down. Wrapped up back at the 29-yard line. Be lucky to get back to the original line of scrimmage that time, as Keith Woody came right in behind him and brought him down.
Yeah, once again, I think Coach Carlock's doing a lot of stunting defense. We're just trying to create some. I see that now that Stacy Carter's down again with those cramps. It looks like he's going to have to come out and maybe just take a water break and get some fluids back in him. And I'm sure his replacement will be Johnny Grant coming in the ball game again.
And that will bring back in Johnny Grant. And that's something I'm sure Johnny Grant didn't expect to see tonight, being able to get in the ball game and take over for Stacy Carter. But again, Coach, that's one thing you have to prepare your backups for, to be able to come in and step in a game situation.
Yes, definitely so. You never know, they may never take a snap, but when they do have to take the snap, as an example tonight, they better be ready to go in, because this could be very critical at this point. And it's 4th and long, 10 yards. It's a great decision making from Coach Simon what to call here.
And the ball resting at the 28-yard line. The Beavers leading at 14-0 on the Kickoff Classic here on WVVA TV. Pat Frizzell alongside me, Mitchell Estep. And there's Grant. Throws a little screen pass, and it will be intercepted. As the G-men will take over, the ball picked off that time. They're trying to track the man down. Tim Hall on the interception that time, the nose guard for Graham, and that's something, the old tip drill, Coach. The ball goes up in the air. Oski.
Yeah, the pressure really come from inside. They try to set up a screen to the outside, and Graham blitzed the linebackers, and everybody coming, and like I said, just a great tip drill, and the guy caught the interception.
And the handoff inside, and that time Mike Kelly will go nowhere. Correction there. Keith Woody on the carry.
Yeah, I think at this point in time here, if Graham doesn't move the ball offensively on the ground, I think you will see Carlock try to mix it up a little bit and try to get some create great field position. Momentum's on their side a little bit now, and maybe they can capitalize on this and get back in the ball game before it's too late.
Well, this is Fred Simon's 3rd year with Bluefield. He's compiled a 9-11 record since he has been here. And they come out of the split backfield that time. Keith Woody on the carry, and he's out to the 46-yard line. And Graham, they need to get on the board and do it fairly quick here. You don't want to get into a desperation situation where you have basically, like I say, desperation.
And this definitely is going to be a big decision time. 3rd down and 8 or 7. They need to get this for surely. And I noticed on Coach Simon's part, on his coaching staff, they've made a little defensive change. It looked like they're looking at a 4-4 a little bit.
3rd down and 7 now for the Graham G-men out of the wishbone. Mike Patton calling the signals now for the G-men, and it's still going to be about 3 or 4 yards short of the 1st down as Patton kept the football that time. And that will bring on the punting team for the G-men.
Yeah, he tried to set up an option to the left and wanted to pitch the ball and try to create something down the short side of the field. And they picked him up real well, and he had no choice but turn it up and keep it, and he just didn't have enough to get the 1st down.
And that will end our 3rd quarter here from Mitchell Stadium as Bluefield still leads it 14-0 over the Graham G-men. Back with a final quarter of play after this timeout. For the start of our 4th quarter here at Mitchell Stadium, where the Bluefield Beavers lead it 14-0. Pat Frizzell alongside me, Mitchell Estep, the head coach of the Jaeger Cubs. And that time, Keith Woody is brought down for no gain on the play. He may have got a yard. And Coach, this is beginning to get down where Graham right now with the ball resting on the Bluefield 44-yard line. They need to basically put the ball in the end zone on this drive, if at all possible.
Yeah, I think you'll see him pull out all stops, as we just seen before on the last thing, going 4th down and taking a long count and trying to draw them off sides. I think Coach Carlock's going to put out all stops here and try to score.
Out of the wishbone. And the ball that time goes to Rick Brown, the backup halfback. And Joe Street there, the senior for Bluefield, the nose guard, to make the tackle. Pickup of maybe 2 yards on the play.
Yeah, I've been noticing Joe Street through the game, number 50. He's playing a heck of a ball game there inside because they're trying to do a lot of trap and double teaming on him, and he's playing it real well. He's a strong player, and he's doing a good job at that nose guard position.
Well, last year, again, Bluefield won this game 34-0, and right now they're shutting out the G-Men 14-0. I know Coach Carlock would love to break that scoreless streak here. And that time, it's Keith Woody on the carry. Woody will get 3 yards on the play, and that's about it.
And I noticed number 50, Joe Street, on the tackle again. So, you know, he's really playing a heck ball game out there, you know, and there's another decision time for Coach Carlock.
4th down and 5 now for the Graham G-Men, and it looks like they will go ahead and punt the football away. Ronnie Scott, the deep man for Bluefield, as well as Floyd Ray, handling the punting chores again for Graham tonight. Well, following the Graham punt, that'll bring up a 1st down and 10 for Bluefield as the ball went into the end zone. And that time, Mike Kelly on the carry. Ronnie Scott, back to that Coach E-step, has really been a key for Bluefield tonight. His ability to get outside and his speed he's basically outquicked the Graham secondary.
No question about it. And Pat, I'm looking forward to see how Coach Simon's going to handle this situation. He's up 14-0 4th quarter. Let's see if he's going to be as wide open as he was early in the first half.
2nd down and 5 now for Bluefield, as they lead the G-Men 14-0 on the Kickoff Classic here on WVVA TV. High school football 1988. Pat Frizzell alongside me, Mitchell Eastep, the head coach of the Jaeger Cubs.
So maybe I notate a little conservatism on both coaches at this point in time, seeing exactly what's going to happen. So, you know, so one of them's going to have to make a break in a minute, and let's wait and be interested to see who does.
3rd down and 4 now for Bluefield. Coach, I guess you've got a big ball game coming up next week yourself. You've had the week off. Not many teams have that chance. You get an extra week to scout them out, huh?
No, yes, sir, I sure am. And I'm glad that my coaching staff is willing to go scout those teams and give me an opportunity to come up here and beat y'all, because I've really enjoyed this game. And I tell you what, we're excited about next week, and hope all the people can come down our way and visit us.
Out of the I formation now for Bluefield. Stacy Carter at quarterback for Bluefield. Throws the football over the middle, intended that time for Jerome Carter, the junior. And Carter had it right in his hands. You hear some boos in the crowd. They seem to think that maybe interference or some words exchanged down on the field. I guess even though they're young, they've still got some heart and desire, and occasionally you'll see a temper or two flare up.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's just part of the ball game. There's a lot of intensity out there by both teams, and neither team want to relinquish the loss. And you know, they're still in the ball game. The game's still going. And I think the last play too indicated. I'm sure Coach Carlock didn't want to use that timeout on defense.
And that will bring on the punting team now for Bluefield. Tony Palmer, the deep man for the G-men. Mike Shota gets the kick away, and Palmer will field the ball back at the 36-yard line. He's loose across the 40, but he'll slip down at the 42-yard line. And that Palmer, you talk about quick, he's another one to keep your eyes on throughout the 1988 high school season.
Sure, he's quick as a cat. I'll tell you, they're both, but you know, I noticed that Coach Simons on this side had put in some small interior linemen, I guess a little quicker linemen, to get downfield on him, because he respects that speed by Graham.
Well, as far as next week is concerned for these two teams, the Bluefield Beavers will entertain the Tazewell Bulldogs out of good old Tazewell, Virginia, while the G-men go against Joe Trabuco and the Princeton Tigers. Pitch on the play, and it's across the 45 out to the 46-yard line. That time, Renault Mason on the carry.
And Pat, I hate to keep bringing it up, but you see who made that tackle again? That number 50 is on that tackle again. He's played a heck of a second-half football game. And that's Joe Street.
Well, the G-men have threatened Coach, of course, a couple times during this ball game, but they've really never been able to penetrate inside the Bluefield 30-yard line. They seem to stall out at the 35, 40, 45-yard line each and every time.
Yeah, it seems like they make good runs, as far as the field position is poor each time, but they move the ball up to the point of attack where they need to really turn it on and something happens. They just get stalled out. Maybe it's a good mark of defense by Bluefield.
One point I'd like to bring out, Coach, this is a college football kind of atmosphere. Having seen some of the great games at Oklahoma with Nebraska and Texas, the spirit is here. In the state of West Virginia, I know I talked to Coach Simon before the game, and he said you'll find no bigger football country than here in southern West Virginia, and I certainly do believe he's right.
I agree with him, because, at the start of the game, you could feel the intensity in there, and that these kids got a lot of pressure on the intense situation, and I think they handled it well. And the crowd's been great to see all these people out for us, so I agree with that 100%.
And Mike Patton that time on the carry. The ball is inside Bluefield territory at the 48-yard line. And next week, the Graham G-men will meet the Princeton Tigers, while Bluefield hooks up with the Tazewell Bulldogs. And that certainly should be a fine matchup. Tazewell, David Litz and company, they've got some tough ones in the trenches.
Yeah, Coach Litz, I know him from school days. We went to school together at Bluefield State. And I tell you, these schedules for neither team gets any easier, does it? So they, every week's a win-loss situation, must win. So, sure they're going to have good ball games.
First down and 10 again for the Graham G-men, as they just made it by a football's length. They throw the football that time as Mike Patton will throw the ball, good for a couple yards pickup. And that'll be a second down now and about 7 yards.
Yeah, noticing Graham and knowing Coach Carlock, he runs the ball. He likes to run the ball and earn it the hard way. But in this situation, he definitely going to have to throw it a little bit, and that may put him in a situation they're not quite as comfortable with.
Second down and 6 now for Graham, trailing at 14-0. We're midway through the final quarter of play. They need to get on the board and do it quick. Patton throws the football, and it was thrown over the middle that time. Intended for Jay Browning, the split end. But good defense there in the secondary by Bluefield. Sometimes that can be the key, Coach. You pop them, and the ball will be dropped.
And balls loosen up. I'll tell you, that's a tough pass to catch, but that was great defense, no question about it. And I think, it just shows intensity on this team. The receiver takes the hit, and the defender gives it, and they go right back in the huddle.
Well, for the most part, not a whole lot of mistakes tonight. Something you would think in a first game you'd see both teams committing numerous penalties and turning the ball over time and time again, but both teams certainly well coached and tuned up for the season opener. And that time the pass intended, it looks like again Jay Browning, but way overthrown. And that will bring up a fourth down situation now for the Graham G-men. And now Coach Carlock has a decision with the ball resting on the Bluefield 44-yard line. Certainly wouldn't blame him at all if he went for it.
No, you couldn't. But I'll tell you, this puts Bluefield's in a quite comfortable situation. You're up 14-0. The clock's against Graham. They got to throw it. They don't like to throw it as much as they do run it. They will throw it occasionally. So, it puts them in a great comfortable situation as opposed to what Graham has to do. So there's a lot of pressure right now on Graham to complete this and get a first down.
Fourth down and 6. That's what they need. This is a must down for the G-men. They run the ball straight up the middle. And that time, Keith Woody will be brought down for no gain.
I think on that play, he thought he'd catch him off guard, maybe playing the pass, Pat, and maybe slip that run up there and get that first down. It didn't work, that's the way it goes sometimes. You got to make those calls. If they work, they're good. If they don't, they're poor. But I respect the decision of Coach Clark to do what he does best, and that's run the football.
First down and 10 for Bluefield as they take over. Carter throws the football, and it is complete that time to Charlie Thompson, and he will pick up close to the first down. Let's see what the official says. He could be just inches short. May have a measurement on this play.
I tell you, on the other hand, you got to respect Coach Simons, what he does. He's doing what the team does best. Next, mix it up, throw it, run it, and don't sit on the lead. You know, as we said earlier about Coach Carlock, do what you do best. If you run it, run it. But we do have a flag on the play, Pat.
First and 20 now for Bluefield. After the penalty, the ball is picked off. 20, 15, 10, touchdown, Graham. Rick Brown is the man of the hour for the G-men as he picks the football off and races some 25 yards for the touchdown. And just like that, we've got another ball game.
No question about it. I tell you, Pat, when you throw that pass sometimes, not to criticize Coach Simons, because that's what the team does best, is mix them up. But when you throw that out pattern like that and it's intercepted, I tell you, by experience, it's 6 points.
And Rick Brown, that's something that the defensive backs are trained to do, is pretty much read the quarterback where he's going to throw the ball and pretty much figure out whether or not he could basically lead the pass. And that's one thing that Brown managed to do is pick the ball off.
Well, I'm sure Graham was gambling too, because they had no choice, so they were going for all passes. So they took a gamble, and it paid off. Like you said, here's a ball game.
And Rick Brown, he'll also handle the extra point chores for Graham. And again, the extra point attempt by Rick Brown. The kick is up, and it is good. Something that Graham needed in that situation. They put it right through the uprights, and now we've got a 14-7 game. Coach, let's go back to instant replay and take a look at that interception return by Rick Brown. He went all the way in for 6.
Yes, Pat, I tell you what happens, as I said earlier, not to criticize Coach Simon by any means, because he was doing what his team does best, but when you run that out pattern, and those defensive backs will gamble, and as you said, that's their job to read and intercept that pass, and he goes that, when he intercepts it, it's clear sailing. There's no one there. So, you know, it's a pass, it's a timing pass, and if it doesn't work, it's 6 points for the other team, or it's incomplete. So, you know, not to criticize anybody, but that's a good call as far as I thought Simon's a great interception, and I tell you what, they won't nobody leave.
And that breaks the string. It took them 2 years, Coach, but they finally got on the scoreboard. I know Coach Carlock pleased about that. Last year, 34-0. But Graham gets on the scoreboard here with just about 5 minutes to play in the ball game, and Bluefield still leads at 14-7, and everyone is now standing here at Mitchell Stadium as they sense that the Graham G-men have that extra confidence that will be necessary to perhaps tie this ball game up.
Well, you could even see an onside kick here, maybe a kick on the ground, a fumble, and Graham get the ball back, you're right back in it. So now the decision is, can Bluefield hold on and get the momentum back on their side?
Well, pretty much an evenly played second half, Coach. Bluefield pretty much had things their way in the first half, but the G-men, you know, that's the sign of an awful good team, Coach. They can show that confidence and come right back, a well-coached team, and come back and get back in the ball game like this.
No, neither of these teams are going to quit. They're well-coached, both teams. They're not going to quit. It's not over to the end of the game, till the clock goes off, but to the end of the time. So it's going to be a good football game, yeah.
And the kick is away. Will be fielded that time by Charlie Thompson. He's across the 30, got some open room. 40, still going, and he's finally brought down at the 44-yard line. As the G-men lucky to stop him that time on the play. Mike Arthur that time on the tackle.
I think they wedged it to the middle, and it kind of got clogged up, and he just kicked it to the outside and seen pay dirt. And if it wasn't for that safety man getting him, hey, that was 6 more. It don't take long in the game. Game of breaks.
And now Bluefield cannot relax. With the ball resting on the 44-yard line, their own, leading this ball game 14-7. The handoff up the middle that time to Mike Kelly. And he's close to the midfield stripe at the 49-yard line. Pick up a 5 yards on the play. That'll bring up a 2nd down and 5 now for the Bluefield Beavers.
Well, Pat, I'd say time has a factor now, and I'm sure Coach Carlock didn't want to use that defensive timeout they used earlier in the second half, and I'm sure that may come back to be a factor in this game.
Well, the importance of winning the first game, according to Coach Carlock of Graham, if you don't win the first one, it will make for a long season. Just makes that second week a lot longer, Coach.
No question about it. You lose that first game, that second week gets longer, and the more pressure builds up for the kids to win. So, you know, you're not only fighting to win, but you're fighting the pressure to win. So it really gets tough week after week. So you need to win early in the season.
2nd down and 5 now for Bluefield. Handoff up the middle, and Mike Kelly will go nowhere as there's about 6 tacklers there, led by Tim Hall of the G-Men.
The intensity level really picks up after the big break. The defense is swarming now, as opposed to before they was kind of waiting for them to come to them. So Bluefield really is going to have to do something now to shake this momentum.
Just about 4 minutes to play, and Coach, the importance of winning game 1, according to Coach Carlock at Graham, you don't win game 1, the rest of your season can be as long as a winter's night without a fire.
Yes, sir, it sure is. The second week gets longer and longer because the pressure builds and builds. So that first game early season is real important.
Ronnie Scott will be brought down. He's going to be about 3 yards short of the first down. The ball inside the G-Men territory at the 48-yard line.
It appears that Coach Simons is going to try to punt the ball and kick Graham in poor field position, assuming that his defense has held him all night. He thinks they may do it again.
And that will bring on the punting unit now for the Bluefield Beavers. And Tony Palmer back deep to receive the kick for Bluefield. And again, Mike Shota standing back at the 41-yard line. The kick is away. There's a flag on the play. Palmer will just let this one bounce, and the ball bounces inside the 5. Will be down at the 1-yard line by Bluefield.
But keep in mind, Pat, we have a flag here. I think it was an early flag. It looked like maybe all sides on one team or illegal procedure by the other.
Well, after an illegal procedure call on the punt, Bluefield will have to do it again. The ball is low. It's blocked, or nearly blocked.
Pat, I thought the same thing. It looked like it was blocked to me. They were all there. It must have slipped through a needle to get there, and it got off a pretty good punt.
They've got to march 85 yards down the field, do the G-Men, if they hope to tie this ball game up. And they don't go anywhere that time as Tony Palmer carries back to the original line of scrimmage. Bluefield leading this ball game 14-7. Graham got on the scoreboard moments ago as Rick Brown scampered in from some 25 yards out on the interception return to bring this ball game within a touchdown for the G-Men. And the ball is thrown outside that time to Jay Browning. And Browning will be brought out of bounds at the 23-yard line. And he'll be about 4 yards short of the first down.
Yeah, it seems like the front three of Bluefield is playing a heavy game. It's hard to run up the middle. Anthony Toller, number 7, Joe Street, number 50, and Chris Meade, number 52, are really clogging that middle up. Best size they have.
Well, now it's back to Mike Patton at quarterback for the Graham G-Men. We started with Arthur, then went back to Patton, back to Arthur. And the musical chairs continues. Mike Patton back in at quarterback.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to keep up with.
Patton throws deep down the right sideline. The pass is incomplete, intended for Jay Browning. And if Browning could have made the grab that time, and it certainly would have been a first down inside Bluefield territory.
Yeah, Pat, he faked an out and up. He just caught the out earlier. He faked the out and then took up the sideline, and it looked like he was open for a moment, but just good coverage defensively by the Bluefield Beavers.
And that'll bring up a 4th down and 4 now for the Graham G-Men. And Bluefield should get good field position in the 4th quarter as, again, we have no clock tonight, only a couple of minutes left in this ball game. And it's a high snap, and they're going to have to go for it this time as they will be brought down. Rick Brown is stopped back at the 15-yard line. Shea Muncie is there to make the tackle. That's something That the G-men did not need to do. They made a big mistake that time. Snap just a little bit too high. He had no choice but to run the football.
Yeah, high snap, and the time he called and got his feet planted, never did get a chance to set up. I'm sure he'd rather got that off, but you know, that's the football. That's breaks, you know, here and there, and you got to try to create less breaks as you can. Turnover rates really beat teams. And Pat, there comes a real factor now when the clock isn't working like this, trying to keep up with the time.
Stacy Carter, Ronnie Scott over the middle. He's inside the 10-yard line to the 8. And now Bluefield, if they can put the ball in the end zone here in the closing moments, then they can pretty much wrap this ball game up.
You know, give Scott a lot of credit, but I'll tell you, that offensive line out there has done a heck of a job tonight. They've really been blocking well, and I think that's really created a lot of holes and a lot of enthusiasm on their offensive side of the ball.
Average size again, 223 pounds. A lot of meat up there in the trenches for Bluefield. Second down and 4, the ball resting on the Graham 8-yard line. And following an offsides call against the G-men, 1st and goal now for Bluefield at the 4, straight ahead with it, as that time Mike Kelly is stood up by Chris Patton.
I think, I'll tell you one thing I like to give notice to both of these teams, Pat. I'll tell you, with a hard-hitting game and a rivalry we have between these teams, the sportsmanship's been excellent, I think. And I'll tell you, that's a contribute to these coaching staffs and the communities that they come from and the parents. So I'll tell you what, I really appreciate seeing a good, clean, hard-nosed football.
Well, 2nd down and goal now for Bluefield. They go straight ahead with it. And again, it's Mike Kelly, and he has stood up once again. Chris Patton on the tackle that time. A lot of strength, apparently, with Graham also.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Chris Patton has made 2 bone-crushing tackles, right back-to-back, crucial tackles, you know, on the same play. So they're going to have to try to find some other direction to score, I believe. I don't believe they're going to come to his side and score. He's not going to relinquish that 6 points.
The ball moved up a yard to the 3-yard line, where that'll bring up a 3rd and goal now for Bluefield. Ronnie Scott tries to eke his way into the end zone, and he's going to be stopped about a half a yard short of the goal line.
Yeah, I noticed Bluefield went into the para formations the first time we seen it with the para eye look and just tried to run to the right side. I figured they didn't have no luck left side. They tried the right side. But I tell you what, that Graham defense is hanging in there tough.
Will end the ball game tonight from Mitchell Stadium in Bluefield, as again, no clock. We had no idea how much time remained, as the Bluefield Beavers now make it 4 straight over the Graham G-men as they hand Graham a 14-7 defeat on the High School Football Kickoff Classic here on WVVA TV. Pat Frizzell with Mitchell Estep. When we come back, we'll have the winning coach, Fred Simon, of the Bluefield Beavers, back after this timeout.
We'll be right back after this short timeout.
Season opener here on the WVVA Game of the Week. As we are now, Pat Frizzell back with the head coach of the Bluefield Beavers, Fred Simon. Of course, Mitchell Estep, our color commentator tonight. And, Coach, right off the bat, it seemed to me this game lived up to everything you thought it would be. The enthusiasm was there. The fire on the field, it just seemed like it was a good 48 minutes of football out there.
Well, it was a good, hard-hitting football game, I'll tell you that. I thought our kids did a good job of hitting some people, and I thought Graham's kids did a good job of hitting some people. And I'd say you'd agree with him, Mitch, being a football coach.
Yes, sir, Freddie. I go way back, Freddie, back to college days, and I agree with him. And what I think so much come out of the game that I thought was a great character builder for these young men is the sportsmanship that's displayed by both teams. And I give Coach Simon and his staff credit for that, and Coach Clark and his staff, and I'm sure both teams are going to be real successful the rest of your way through. do.
Coach, what did you feel was a turning point in the game where you thought that maybe you had this game under control?
Well, I don't know if you can ever have a game under control at one point, but, you know, when we got our second score there, I kind of felt like hopefully defensively I thought our kids would come through and do a good job, and they really did a good job defensively. We had that one turnover for an interception for a touchdown, but after that, I think basically we shut them down pretty good.
Now let's go back to the Jay Sims moment, Coach. I know we want to talk a little bit about that and the pride and perhaps some extra incentive out there on the field, knowing that this game was partially for one of your former players here at Bluefield High School, Jay Sims.
Well, we hoped that we'd go out there and play just as hard as Jay Sims played up here for us a few years ago, and our kids, I thought, lived up to partially about how Jay would have played. You know, just give it everything they got and get after play a little bit, and I thought they did a good job out there.
Mitchell, what did you feel was perhaps the key for Bluefield tonight? I know you had a chance to see it from a little different perspective. You used to seeing everything from the sidelines tonight in the broadcast booth, but something did you see was really a key for Bluefield and carry them on to victory tonight?
No question. I agree that it is a different look. I think the turning point, once again, I agree with Coach Simons that the turning point was the defense. They kept Grant in poor field position most of the night, and they never could get the offense going, and they are a running team, and, you know, that never could get that passing game going. And I thought his defense really contained them, but his offense definitely did the job early in the first half, I think, scoring 2 quick touchdowns.
Coach, 1 down, 9 to go. Now, this Bluefield team I know has been talked about as being one of the talented teams, even compared to the state championship team of 1984. This has got to be some extra incentive and certainly getting the season off on the right foot.
Well, it's definitely, anytime you get a victory, it's a good momentum booster. So we hope that's going to carry over, because I tell you, we've got a real good football team coming down to Mitchell Stadium next week in Tazewell. I think Dave Litz and their staff done a great job down that way, and we look for a heck of a football game next week.
So it's Tazewell next week, Coach, and certainly the best of luck to you in that ball game. Coach Estep, a pleasure, head coach of the Jaeger Cubs. And Coach, one final question. Is it easier in the broadcast booth or is it easier on the sidelines?
I'm looking forward to get back to Jaeger and be on the sideline. Enjoyed being here with you, Pat, and thank you for the invitation.
Certainly. And again, our winning coach, Fred Simon, congratulations to the Bluefield Beavers tonight as they down the Graham G-Men 14-7. Pat Frizzell with Fred Simon, along with the head coach of the Jaeger Cubs, Mitchell Estep. So long, everybody, from Mitchell Stadium. Good night.
This has been High School Football Game of the Week. Brought to you in part by Ramey Chevrolet, steering you straight. By Hardee's Restaurants, where we're out to win you over. And by Mullins Ford, your four-wheel drive headquarters in Richlands, Virginia. Thanks for watching. Now's the time to buy that new Ford truck you've been waiting on.